What's going on, Primers? It's me, your friend Michael Gerard Tyson. Listen, today we're gonna do celebrity sports birthdays. Sorry, I was eating your children. So today we'll start off with English footballer for Manchester United way back in the 1960s. Gary Pallister was born in Kent, England. Also, Michael Phelps, the most awarded swimming man in the world. Some call him Aquaman. Others call him a little stinky. And then yours truly, Michael Gerard Tyson, turns 59 years young. Oh my goodness, my Tigers and I are going to roll around and eat cake all day long. As long as the creditors don't come and take it away. Have a great show, everybody. Footy Prime out.
Thanks, Mike. And happy birthday, 59, eh? Still looking good. Still fighting the good fight, so to speak. And Gary Pallister, one of the great defenders in English football history, didn't realize he was born in Kent. Ramsgate, Kent, in fact. I thought he was a full Mancunian, but I guess not. He's a Kentish boy or a man of Kent. You know, if you're born in Kent, depending on what side of the river you're born, you're either a man of Kent or a Kentish man. It's the River Medway. And I think I'm a Kentish man.
That doesn't surprise me.
Kentish or?
Do I sound Kentish?
Sounds like you're speaking in code.
I did not understand anything you were talking about.
No, really?
I don't know where Kent is.
Oh, it's in the southeast of England.
Okay.
And that's where Gary Pallister is from. I get excited when I hear about successful people from Kent. So Gary Pallister and I think Gloria Hunniford. I think they're the two. Anyway, it's Footy Prime. Gillingham. There you go. The Gillies. Yeah. Yep, they're in Kent too. Yep, well done. Tunbridge Wells, Tunbridge, Sevenoaks. Yeah. I could go on, but I think people want us to talk about other stuff today. Listen, Dubs is here, and there's Jimmy, there's JC, and Wonga, and Shams. No Craig at the moment. We'll see. He's currently golfing in Cape Breton or somewhere. So who knows if he's on the course. It's Craig. We just don't know. But he might show up at some point because there's lots to talk about. It's actually, I think, a good day for Jimmy and Craig because they're still relevant. Congratulations, Jimmy and Craig. 2000 Gold Cup champions, still the only Canadian men's team to win something. Do you feel good? Kind of? Is a part of you that thinks, you know what? Not the worst thing to see Canada lose yesterday.
Yeah, what do you think? I had a little fist pump under the desk.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, relevancy.
No, I genuinely thought this was going to be the year for these guys to win a Gold Cup. I thought with the squad that they had, and you want them to be successful. We need trophies. We need silverware in Canada, and it was disappointing. That's for sure. Seeing them get knocked out against Guatemala.
So, Dubs, how should we feel? You know, they played pretty well in that first half, I thought. Mm-hmm. You know, it was a great first half to watch. And then, of course, the two yellows, the red. Is it fair then to judge a team, a 10-man team, losing in a penalty shootout?
Yeah, it's fair because this is a team that I think they should have dispatched of in that first half when they were in full control of the match. So that's hindsight's 2020. You don't foresee the Jacob Schaffelberg moment of madness, if you will, the kind of body check for a second yellow. But I think they still were in that match. They still were fully in control, even though they were a man down. And then I think it's like, I don't think it's doomsday. Like if you're on social media and you're looking at the reaction around this team, I think it's fair that expectations were high, and beating a team like Guatemala wasn't asking a whole lot, especially with the way that this team started this tournament, right? So expectations were even higher based on how they rolled over Honduras. And then it like a little bit of a lower ebb against Curacao and El Salvador, obviously 2 men down, but expectations were ratcheted back up again, and I think fairly. So to see this team not be able to manage a 1-0 lead going into the second half, questionable substitutions in my mind by Jesse Marsh, perhaps also questionable tactics to keep pushing and pressing instead of not parking the bus, But being a little bit more pragmatic, I think would have put his team in a better situation to see that game out. That was still 45 minutes where you were going to be up against it, perhaps even under the cosh, as Jimmy might say. But I think it was still a winnable game at that point. But I don't know why you have to continue to push. And like one of the things that I saw, and I don't know if I agree with it wholeheartedly, is people circling back to that question by that English media fellow, where Jesse Marsh is like, I have a plan B, C, all the way through double Z. And yesterday it seemed like he didn't, that he just had one way to play. And I disagree with that. I think that he does, but I think it's more of a slight arrogance and a stubbornness to stick to what he thinks he can equip his team with for success. And then the team wasn't able to deliver on that. So I don't even remember what your original question was, but I think that yesterday was a completely winnable match after a good, I don't think great, performance in the first half where they were in control, and then it all went to shit in the second half.
Tell us, Jimmy. Dubs brings up the coach in there, and Jesse Marsh and his leanings to aggressive attacking football, which is great. You know, it's great when it works and the team's ahead and on the front foot. It is, but there's a time and place for it. Do you agree with Dubs that it went wrong in the second half because of tactics and substitutions?
Yeah, there is a time and place for it. And it's hard to play that way. Never mind with 11 players on the pitch, but with 10, it's even harder because you're asking players to do more running than they would do if there was 11 on the pitch. And you could see towards the end, the guys were absolutely gassed. Jonathan David was finished. Johnson was done. You could just see the fatigue setting in, because they were constantly pushing, pressing, trying to get at the ball, but you end up doing more running. And for me, I didn't understand the Jebison substitution. I don't know why he came on. And like I said before, I mean, for me, I would have probably went with a 4-4-1. I would have put Seeger on the right. I would put Saliba in the middle. I would have put Bazong on the left, taken off Jonathan David or Tanny, because I felt that Guatemala weren't good enough to break them down if they went in two banks of four. And then, you've got some players that are a little bit defensive minded as well, but still at the same time could go forward. If they did that, then Guatemala's got to come at you, which means they'll fan out, open up, which allows you to get them on the counterattack. And I think they would have saw the game completely different than the way they finished in the second half, because I just didn't like how they kept on pushing, pressing, because you could just see the players were just wearing out. There was nothing left in the tank.
I think you even saw Jebison, who came on. When did he come in for Tejon? Around the hour mark? Maybe just slightly before?
Around there, I think it was. Yeah.
So I agree with you, Jimmy. Like, I don't understand that substitution at all. I would have done a similar thing, brought in Saliba to the heart of the midfield for Tejon, and then slid Seeger back and pushed Richie up. And I think there you're in like a really good position to, as you're saying, weather anything that Guatemala throws at you. But you saw Jebison just, sometimes, Jimmy, when you come on as a sub, you want to bring energy. You're eager to inject that lift or to give your team a lift. But sometimes it takes you a couple of minutes to almost acclimatize yourself, not to the weather, but to the pace and the tempo of the game. Yeah. And I think you saw that happen. And then you saw almost maybe after 10 minutes where you saw him struggle physically to even keep up. So you can imagine what it was like for the other guys on the pitch.
No, well, absolutely. So John David cramp up, the person you want taking that penalty and coming off with 10 minutes left. So, wow, what's going on here? And so Johnson couldn't take penalties, I'm assuming because he was just cramped up, couldn't move. An experienced head. I know he's a fullback. He's not known for taking penalties, but he's the kind of guy you want there before a kid in Luc de Fougeron, who give him all the credit in the world for stepping up, but he was seventh, right? And off the bar. To have the players that knackered. And it wasn't hot there. It wasn't like they're playing in Houston.
No.
It was air conditioned.
You're right. It was a perfect temperature inside that dome. And that's why the pace and tempo was so quick. I mean, that first half was great. And for a neutral, they would have enjoyed that first half just because the pace was so good. It was back and forth. And I mean, if that game was in Houston, it would not be like that at all. It would have been so much slower and sluggish.
Jimmy, I
then,
want to.
Sorry, but then going into the second half, that tempo, Guatemala is going to play at that tempo again, and we were trying to match them and press them, and that's where we lost in the second half.
You
wasted too much energy.
Dubs and you both spoke about player substitution, but what about player management? Where would that fit in? Because they're inextricably linked, right? So where did you feel with the player management? Who should have come off? Who should have come on? I know you, but what timing would that have been? Because these guys started cramping up. Where's that sweet point where you're like, oh, this is the spot where, hey, because they shouldn't be cramping. They shouldn't be in that position, correct?
Well, no, I mean, you're getting the cramping just because the amount of running that you do in high intensity work, right? So, I mean, it's the job of the manager and the staff to watch players during the match. You can see a player when they start to get fatigued. You can just see, if the play stops and they're bent over, holding their knees, trying to suck in air, or they're making some movements where you're going, oh, keep an eye on him. Something's not right. You can start to see, and that's when you got to start making your decisions and pulling players off.
Are you alluding to John David there, Wonger?
Yeah, John David.
Of occasions where he looked worse for wear, just physically on his own, but then he was clattered into, got tackled from behind, and stayed down, but then remained in the match.
Yes, and
I think at that point that's an error. I think he should be coming out, and I'm also thinking Tajon Dubs, where he had a little twinge, and then he stayed on, and this is going back to the aggregate of play, and hey, these guys had long seasons or this. So I'm always just kind of, because substitutions and where the substitution comes in can make such a difference, because you want the optimal performance. When these guys are starting to descend in that space as far as energy and exhaustion, where I think the where and the when is even more important, correct?
Tajon, though, I mean, listen, he hasn't played that much for football this year. Didn't play Inter Milan. Was hurt for the first part of the season, played more towards the end. So it wasn't like aggregate fatigue for him, I don't think. But when I saw him grab his hammy, I'm thinking, oh, God. And then my mind went straight to the medical staff and saying, the last thing this team needs right now is to keep a player on with a dodgy hamstring, given all the bullshit narrative around them right now. But he looked okay. He looked fine. He was sprinting. He was making those short bursts. He didn't seem to be a guy that was struggling with a hamstring injury. So you got to trust him, I think, at that point, and the medical staff. But, I mean, it's okay to criticize this team. I think some of the emotion last night I saw on social media went a little bit too far. It's overall just that frustration, I think, that disappointment. Had they not gone down a man, I'm pretty confident they would have won that match. Jacob Schafferberg is a favorite of ours. We love the guy. We love the way he plays. But, I mean, Jimmy, it's just a stupid, silly, naive play in a CONCACAF match when you know the history, you know what referees do in this region of the world. They're going to call that every single time. Yeah,
you're right, and you gotta manage yourself in a situation like that, especially. And look, and Schafferberg knows CONCACAF inside out. He knows what the refereeing is all about. You've got your yellow. That ball gets played. He's sprinting. You're not going to win it. Just slow down. Slow down, get out of the way. Put the brakes on. But you can't run into him and expect the referee not to do anything. It's CONCACAF. They're going to come straight over to you and give you a yellow. They are not shy of pulling out yellow cards. And it was a huge mistake by Schafferberg that really cost the game.
I think that's it, though, Sharms, is that it's a mistake. I would rather that he make it now than next summer. And then people automatically going like, he's all gas, he's no brakes, and he's an idiot, and he belongs on a bench. Like, never, he's played himself off this World Cup roster next year. Like, just relax. Like, he's a favorite of Marsh's because he's all gas and no brakes. Yeah. And it's a double-edged sword if you're going to be playing this brand of high octane football. He's beloved by, I mean, and people also criticizing the fact that his teammates were giving him a high five as he came off. They're not congratulating him for getting sent off. They're sort of acknowledging the effort and the spirit. And it was misguided and it was too much. And yes, he wasn't thinking in the moment. He'll learn from that. This whole team will learn from this. And I think, yes, it's disappointing. And I think you look at the balance of play across this tournament, it was not good enough. And we do have to hold this team to a higher standard, but you also will learn from it. And Jesse Marsh will learn from it as well, to recognize that you can be humbled by CONCACAF opponents that you're meant to beat. And that on the day you still have to be able to come up with the result. This team will be better. I think it's, in short order, it'll be the World Cup next year. This is the last competitive tournament before then. But it is learnings at the end of the day, like all of this.
Well, that's the frustrating part, is that it's the last opportunity of competitive football before the World Cup, and it's finished 2 matches short.
Yeah, but this is what I don't understand. We keep talking about the World Cup. Are we good enough to win a World Cup? No.
Have we ever been good enough to win a World Cup?
No.
So I think this is where the pendulum has swung, right? It's like we've thought too big about this team too quick.
But what's the goal of the World Cups? To get out of the group stage, right? And have a decent run. Yeah. Now, the learnings, we've been to a Copa, we've been to a World Cup, we've been to Nations League. Like, how much more learning do we have to do? Mm-hmm. This is a Gold Cup. This is a tournament that we were expected to win, and we didn't win.
Yeah.
So for me, no, it's rubbish. They had to win this tournament. The players said it themselves. They want to win. They want silverware. They're ready. On paper, great squad. We let ourselves down.
I think they've earned the right to be judged to a high standard. They've played enough good football. Copa America was the one, right? That's what showed everyone. If not for Copa last year, the expectations wouldn't be close to what they are right now. They showed us all last year, wow, this team actually can play tournament football, can get fired up and keep everything under control. But something seems to have gone a little awry since then. And I do wonder, we've made a lot of Jesse Marsh and his his personality. He's intense, gets fired up. He's got in trouble for it on more than one occasion. And the defense has been, well, he's really trying to just lead by example, show his players, you shouldn't back down to anyone. I wonder if it's gone too far and if they get a little bit too fired up. Because I get the impression that CONCACAF, the word's out about this team. You can get to them. You can get under their skin a little bit. We saw El Salvador try, and they came close, but Canada didn't break. Yesterday, we saw an undisciplined Canada more than one occasion. Towards the end there, when the sideline got involved in that. And what are you doing? It's CONCACAF. That could have gone awry very quickly. And what do you hope to accomplish by getting up from the bench and trying to go nose to nose with some guy on the pitch if you're a fucking sub sitting there with a bib on? It's pointless. I wonder if they got to take a real deep breath here and maybe mellow a little bit. I'm not the professional footballer. You two were. Do I make a point, or am I just being too woke?
No, I think you make a good point. I think they absolutely have to be measured in your point about how other opponents see a vulnerability there that they can exploit is bang on. And that's what happened, I think, over the course of this tournament, not just yesterday, but other occasions as well. But I will say that same double-edged sword where we love Jacob Schaffelberg when it works, but you'll throw the hate and the vitriol at him on social media and say he's played himself off the World Cup roster because of one error, is the same double-edged sword as it applies to the emotion and the swagger. So if Canada's on the winning side of that result yesterday, or on the right side of that result, we love that response. So I think we have to be careful here in how we're holding this team up. I think the expectations are fair. I think Jimmy's point that it's rubbish that they have had time to have the learnings and to accrue all that, to put in their toolbox and to do better is absolutely a fair assessment. But I think for the longest time, we bemoaned the fact that Canada had the chip on their shoulder mentality. And now they believe that they can win something, and they have the attitude and the swagger and the emotion to back it up. And now we're throwing it back in their faces. So I think you have to be a little bit careful here with how we're proceeding. Of course, they have to dial it down a little bit. So does Marsh. So do the players. It has to come down just a wee bit. But I think I like kind of the mindset and the mentality that this team have. I think they have to control it a little bit better, especially in those moments, and recognize where they are. But I think we have to be careful to throw it all out, throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Whole us against the world mentality. I mean, yeah, I like it to a certain point, but I think it goes too far. I mean, they're not in too bad a spot, most of these guys.
Sharms,
Really?
you were foreshadowing this entire conversation yesterday, and this is a quote from Sharms's Twitter. Devil's advocate laced with sarcasm. Strange to see Canada's men's national team players a little reckless, considering how calm and composed his gaffer is on the sidelines.
Yeah.
And then I also wanted to, our friend, our tall, bald friend, who used to be a goalkeeper for Canada.
Oh.
Discipline. Canada needs to figure it out quickly. Guatemala outsmarted Canada's men's national team. Another opportunity missed. And as good as we've been saying they are, it's up to them to get through the door. Winning when it matters is tough. There's Krager for us.
Especially at 10-man football.
Mm-hmm.
Which really is, I mean, if you break it down, sorry, Wong, but you break it down, it's really that simple. They went down the man, didn't adjust, and the result is they lose the match on penalties. The worst way possible to lose a match. But they still should have won that game. They weren't outplayed in the first half. They should have scored more than one goal. Really, that's what it comes down to, I think, as well. So it's just, for me, it's frustration. I'm not angry. I don't so, like I said, some of the vitriol on social, that's typical of sports fans. In the heat of battle, they say silly things. Jacob Schafferberg's a big part of the answer to this team. Big solution. He's going to be a big part of this squad for many years. We can talk about goalkeeping if you want. I know Dane Sinclair has been taking a barrage of criticism. Not making the big save when he had to. The penalties, the first two in particular, Jimmy, he got to them. He guessed right, didn't make the save. We'll get Craig on at some point, hopefully today, to do a piece, just looking at that, because, you know, we're not really in a position to really judge and we don't know. But should Dane Sinclair have done better, do you think?
I mean, it's difficult. Like you said there, I mean, this is Stax' expertise. You know, he'd understand the situation. I mean, a lot of people were saying when that header came in, it's just gone over top of him and he should have got something on it. Now, I've never been in that position. I've never experienced a header coming in with pace and thinking, you know, are you thinking, is he going to go right? Is he going to go left? The ball comes straight at him, just over top of his head. I mean, as an outfield player looking at it, I think, yeah, maybe he should have got something on it. I think he should have got.
What about Cornelius on that, though, right? Like defending that. I think you have to give credit to Ruben, too.
Great header.
Great header.
No,
great movement, great header. Almost impossible for me, again, like you, Jimmy, having no expertise in a goalkeeping realm. But I don't know if that's savable, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Was it more Cornelius?
Yeah. For me, watching Cornelius, Cornelius loses his man. And when you watch him, he ends up ball watching and then takes his eye off his man rather than getting touch tight, knowing this ball could be coming into the box. It's almost like he thinks the cross isn't coming. Then that's when he turns, and then obviously the guy makes a good run, comes across him, good header. So Cornelius, it was bad defending.
Well, I think we can agree to this, that, you know, I still have no idea who's going to be in goal at the World Cup. This is an opportunity for Dane to reclaim that. I think this tournament, I thought Jesse Marsch had his number one goalkeeper. Even when I saw the selection for this match, I thought, okay, he's made his mind up. Dane's the guy.
Yeah.
I don't think now you can say that is necessarily the case. Max deserves another chance at this, another crack at it. Much depends on club form, though, right? And you can take nothing away from Dane Sinclair. He's made the MLS All-Star team again, just announced the last little while. He's a very good goalkeeper who hasn't made blatant errors. Hasn't been great, though, for Canada. It's been very average. I think it's probably fair to say. Whereas Max, we still hang our hat on the Copa America performance when he was just outstanding. Not just good, he was outstanding and was maybe Canada's best player in that tournament. So he deserves a crack at it. So I don't know, Dubs, where you lie right now with the goalkeeping situation. Is it still 50-50 for you? It's one leading together?
I think especially after that performance where, you've heard the soundbite. I don't know what, post-match it was, but Dane Sinclair talking a big game, saying that I'm going to come up with 1, maybe 2 saves in every penalty shootout, and that it's up to you guys to win it at that point because I'll come up big for you. And he has done that for Minnesota. So I think he can back it, right? But for Canada, he hasn't quite done that yet. And as you mentioned, Max Crepeau has done that consistently. And I think when you're a player, not to say that they don't have confidence in Dane, but when you know that you have a player who's done it before, like Max, then it does do something to your aura, to your swagger, to your belief in the ability of the team to get it done. So I think you have to take that into consideration. But I think Jesse Marsch desperately wants the physical profile of a Dane Sinclair to be his number 1. And for whatever reason, even if Max fits the bill, because when he pulls on that Canada shirt, he is always lights out. You know what you're getting. I don't think when Jesse looks at him, he thinks he's my number 1. So I think there's a lot yet for both of them to prove. And it's going to be a long year. And I don't think you can discount the likes of a James Pantemis, who hasn't been into camp for a really long time, but is playing outstanding football for Portland, or McGill, even like a Sirois, there are tons of goalkeepers in that pipeline, and lots can change in a year, but I think it really is a battle between those two, and nothing's decided yet.
Midfield, Jimmy, you saw Nico Segur and Chouanier. It wasn't exactly a great performance from the midfielder, I didn't think, overall. Not to say they're not important parts of this squad, and maybe even the starting 11 at some point. But what are your thoughts on that partnership?
Yeah, it wasn't great, was it? But you saw spells where they did look good, and I like Segur. I think he's a good player. He's a utility player as well, isn't he? It's important to have a player like that where they can play right back, right midfield, they can play center midfield, wherever you need them. I thought Chouanier, I thought he was good in at certain times throughout this tournament. I like the way that plays. I mean, he does a lot of the dirty work that goes unnoticed. He covers an awful lot of ground. He's another player for me that's very important. I think they missed Estacchio. I think they missed somebody just to get on the ball and keep a rhythm and play. And Saliba for me, I felt Saliba should have started. I really like this kid. I like the way that he plays. And it's another important piece to the puzzle. So I think it's center midfield. I think they've got some good players. It's going to be interesting to see how Saliba develops, how Segur develops over this next year. Chouanier, can he get a lot of minutes and play more games than what he has been? Because with the national team, he's been great, but obviously with Montreal not doing so well, it's been difficult for him. But Kone, he's got a lot to prove. I mean, he's still not there yet, is he? You're not going to get a full 90 minutes from him. He's too inconsistent. And then that's it, really, isn't it? Am I missing anybody else? Well, you got Oso, but we know what you're going to get from Oso. But then it's another year, and Oso's getting older now. Does he have the legs to compete for that position?
You got 4 players there. You got at least four central midfielders who can do a job for you. And not to, as Dub was alluding to before, let's not champion this team too much as being a World Cup contender. They never have been. They aren't. But they're a decent squad, and the midfield looks in pretty good shape. If Kone can get his game back this season, wherever he ends up playing, that's massive. But it's hard, Dubs, isn't it, to look at positives after that kind of loss yesterday. But as a whole in this tournament, there were some bright spots. I feel so good about Tajon Buchanan right now.
Yeah,
and he's back to his best. And we said it throughout the tournament. He was the best performer, wasn't he, in this Gold Cup in these games?
Yeah, he was, along with Segur, as Jimmy was talking about. So you look at, I think the best 11 at the end of the group stage, Segur and Buchanan made that best 11, and I think fully merited. I think Segur, to go back a little bit before I keep going about the positives that you can glean from this, or kind of where we are currently, is that midfield pairing of Chouanier and Segur. I think Segur, he was muted a little bit. Like, it was his least convincing performance, I think. Not that he was poor, but he wasn't outstanding the way he had been in the other matches. And I think that Chouanier's Service lacked a little bit of quality. It lacked kind of the well-worked, kind of the refinement that we did see, and not consistently, but in certain moments in the other matches. And I think that's why he might get, from Marsh's perspective, that's why Choinière gets the nod over a Saliba. Even though I think if you just look, you take the dead balls out of it, I think that Saliba gets the nod ahead of Choinière. I would like to see that pairing, actually. But to go back to the bright spots, I think for sure Tajon's put himself in a great position now. So if anybody's put themselves in that shop window in terms of what they can offer a club in this year, that's going to be so critical to all of these players to ensure, as Jimmy mentioned earlier, a player like Choinière at Grasshopper, played like between 800 and 900 minutes over the course of the season. It's just not enough. Like, he has to get more starts. He has to get more meaningful minutes. All of those players have to go somewhere where they're playing. But that's going to be hugely important for him, because he's at a level now where he's like the Tajon of old, that you can rely upon to be that jinky player on the wing, the pace, the power, the aggressiveness, delivering on goal contributions, whether he's playing provider or scoring himself. Like, that was him in spades this tournament. It was so great to see. And Sigur, I think I just like to see more of him. But I want to go back just really quickly before we don't get a chance to talk about it. That occasion that Choinière had when he's driving at the Guatemalan backline, and after he takes his first touch, he elects to go down the left wing, kind of a shorter pass to Schaffelberg. He's got Tani Oluwaseyi, and he doesn't play it. And I was just like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Like, you at least have to try it. Maybe it gets intercepted. Maybe it doesn't come off. But that was maybe the moment, where maybe they get that second goal and they're able to double their lead. But I mean, again, this is hindsight being 2020, but that was something that was really missed in the middle of the park, was that incisive, not only pass but it was the decision making, I think. And then the fact that they needed to use and own the heart of that midfield more effectively and boss it a little bit more, because I wouldn't say that they were overrun, but I just think that the team needed to rely upon a heady veteran player. And I know we were without Eustachio. I'm not going to use that as an excuse, but a guy like Oso that Jimmy mentioned just briefly, talking about the midfield, you were missing his cool head and his veteran presence at the end of that match there. And I don't understand. I get Kone. People are talking about him as being a coach killer, but obviously discipline's an issue. And he needs to go somewhere where he regains his footing. But how is Jaden Nelson fallen so out of favor? I mean, I know he hasn't been in a ton, but why doesn't he get a look?
It's great question, given what he's done so far with the Whitecaps. And when he's played for Canada, he's played very well, I thought. In the He Believes Cup, he got some minutes. They're decent.
Yeah. But
didn't get a look in at this tournament. Jimmy?
No, it's a good point. It's a good point. I don't have the answer for that. I've wondered myself. I thought there was a couple of times he probably could have came on, and he didn't end up doing it. So I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I thought I would have definitely saw Jaden Nelson quite a bit in this tournament. So it is bizarre. And I'm sorry, going back to Choinière as well. I actually said Montreal. I meant Grasshopper. But his delivery wasn't too bad, Dubs. Tell me what you think here. Mm-hmm. They had 7 corners or whatever it was in the first half, I think, and they had a lot of set pieces around the box where the ball went into the box. Now, how many times did that goalkeeper catch the ball at his chest and really low? Like, for me, I was looking, going, that's not a bad ball. Or another one goes in. That's a good ball, but how is this goalkeeper catching it at his chest and nobody's making runs across him? I thought their movement was terrible in the box because I don't think the service was too bad. I think it was the movement. And when you get a keeper that's coming out catching it that low, I mean, that's an opportunity, is it not, for someone to get across and get something on it?
Yeah, you're right. They were slightly out of sync, because those balls that he was hitting a little bit flatter towards the near post, they did look dangerous. You're right. But it was the ones that I'm thinking about are the ones that he was floating kind of to the second post or electing to go short, where I'm just thinking, just whip it into the box. Yeah. So yeah, I don't think he was poor. And you do make a good point that it's not just about the person who's taking the set pieces. It's about, the reaction. It's about who's anticipating the runs and all that sort of stuff. And if you're just relied upon to put it into the right area, and it's up to everybody else to get on the end of it.
Yeah.
Sharms, I wanted to talk about, if it's okay, the penalty kick situation. And the reason why I want to know how that's kind of chosen, how it works, because I don't know if you guys remember, but Luc de Fougeral was also in the penalty kicks involved with Côte d'Ivoire, scuffed it.
Yeah, it was a terrible penalty.
Yeah, and now he dinged it off the crossbar. But I guess my question is he the right person to be taking these? Are they, or is that just, hey, we need to take, I don't know how it's chosen. And he's later on in the roster to take the kicks. Is this something we have to work on as a team, or is this, hey, every day after practice, you get the confidence, you put your name in? How does it work?
It varies, right? I think it depends on the coach. Some will have their list ahead of time. They know exactly who's going to be taking them. Others, Jimmy, will just kind of read the group, read the room, right? Some guys might say, I'm up for it, Gaff.
Yeah.
And you want that confidence, right? I don't know how JC Marsh does it, though.
Look, and when you get into tournaments like this, even when we were at the Gold Cup, every day after training, we were taking penalties. Everybody's just taking penalties throughout the session because you know that this could happen. So you've got to practice. And then you get it sometimes where you're going into penalties, the manager will come over and you'll say, okay, who's feeling it? Who wants one? And you might get 5 guys right away, put their hands up. I'll take it. I'll take it. Right. What order do you want to go in? I'll go first. I'll go third. I'll go fifth. So and normally it's the usual suspects where your strikers are always really the first ones that go, I'm going to take him. I'll take it. Midfielder maybe might put his hand up. But, you can't take anything away from Luke. He's 19 years old. I thought he had a hell of a tournament. I mean, he struck it well. You could see what he went for. Typical center back power down the middle.
An inch
off. A little bit too high. And I don't think, who was left? It was just Larrea and Johnson as well, wasn't it?
Yeah. I'm surprised Richie didn't step up.
That was left. So,
but maybe he was knackered too.
Yeah, but I just think we need to be careful. Like I saw this as well on social media. Like, how can those veterans let this young kid put himself forward before them? But it's not that. It's what Jimmy's saying is that it's a hybrid. It's all of these players practicing. After every single practice, longer there would have been penalty shots being taken. Right. And Marsh is looking at it. The technical staff is assessing players, taking a look at it. But it's on the day. It's you maybe have some names written down as the coach, but it's who wants to, who feels it on the day, 100%. So I forget what I was talking about.
But he was 7th too, right? I mean, it wasn't like he was, he's way down the line. They probably could have, they could have won it by then. Laren's penalty was the one that was like really poor. Yes, I found that actually worse than the Fougerol's, quite honestly.
Right. So, but my point is, in talking about that, is that it's less about those guys not volunteering themselves, and it's de Fougerol putting himself forward, saying, "I want to take it." So great, take it. It's so don't criticize the veterans who didn't put their hands up, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, like I said, I'm sure Johnston was. We saw him at the end of the match. He'd given everything in that. He had nothing. If he's cramping up too, I mean, I know it's a penalty. You've got time to stretch beforehand, but you don't really want a cramping up calf, taking a penalty kick in that kind of. If Luc de Fougerol is feeling physically good, then of course. And like you said, Jimmy, I was mentioning bright spots. He was my second name on the list. I thought Luc de Fougerol had a really good tournament and shows that we've got some depth there at centre back. He's not going to start the World Cup. And for a kid that hasn't played first team football yet, he's still, imagine Fulham's academy. I think he needs a low move out this season, it seems, to get some first team football. He's a really good player. He's brave. He's strong. He likes the physicality. I like him a lot. He can move the ball out of into the midfield. He's a very much a modern centre half, and I felt really good about his performance throughout this tournament.
I love him. I think he's sky's the limit for this kid. Really is. Just the composure, the way that he passes. Passes are firm, crisp. I love how he doesn't panic under pressure. He's aggressive, looks to win the ball on the front foot. He's got all the tools, this kid. I'm telling you, he's going to be a great player. Great player. And good for him for taking a penalty too. And look, I mean, If he went last, people would be complaining. I can't believe you let a young guy go last. You take all that pressure. Like, it's just whatever order you fall into, you got to go take your penalty, regardless of your age. You know, you're a young man, but when you step on the pitch, you have to play like a man. No different from, you know, a young girl playing and being treated like a woman when they walk onto the pitch, because it's what's expected. So he's brave enough to go and take that penalty. I don't think anything wrong with it.
No, it's just that it's become such a big part. It's actually like a whole new part of the game that has become even more important. And it's especially now that there's no extra time in the Gold Cup, right? Like, except for the final. So it plays such an important part. So I'm always wondering how that list is made, and then going back to player management, who's on the field at that time, right? And so you exhaust certain players, and they're injured, or they're not brought on at the right time, knowing that you're basically playing for a tie at this point, right? And I wonder, back to the player management and the subs, how that all worked out.
They
And
had no choice. Well, the subs scored that, right? Saliba scored, Jebison scored, Promise scored. It all kind of
all the above. I just, you know, it really reinforces how important that skill is now, where it wasn't always, right?
No, it's extremely important. But I learned over many years of HeartBreak that I don't read anything into penalties. Who misses, who scores them. It's such a psychological thing.
So you feel good about Baggio back in the day? And Harry Kane at the Euros. When
I still have sympathy for both those guys. They're pretty good footballers who, generally speaking, could hit the target in most cases. All right, but you try and do it in that kind of pressure. But penalty, I mean, it's not a crapshoot. I think it is a skill, 100%. I don't like these people saying it's a coin toss, because mental strength is a skill as well. But it's penalties. You take 10 penalties, you might not score all of them. It's as simple as that. And I don't judge a player ever for missing a penalty. And I've seen my teams lose on many shootout occasions.
If I can add just one thing, is you see Jonathan David, the difference between the penalty that he struck against El Salvador that was saved, and then the penalty that he scored in this game to open the scoring. The patience and the composure after the whistle, right? There was no rushing, full trust, full belief in himself to get the job done. And then going back to Defoe's role, all the qualities that you guys talked about, I completely agree. Like, he's one of my bright spots as well. Like, great things await this young man for Canada and wherever he ends up playing his club football. But he has such composure on the pitch. And then the two penalties that we've seen him take, there's been an absence of composure. And that's maybe a lack of maturity in those moments. But I don't think it's a lack of composure in his game. So that will be learned. And I know I'll probably get hammered for this. And Jimmy, you took me to task earlier for saying this is about the learnings and about, you know, what you're putting in your toolbox. But for a young player, a guy who's 19 years old, like, yes, the bravery to step up and take that penalty again, to put himself forward 100%. But he'll learn from this. Like, he'll take a breath, he'll take a second, because the ref had barely finished. Like, the sound hadn't ended and he was sprinting towards that ball. And he didn't just clip the crossbar. He almost smashed. Like, I'm surprised the net didn't move after he connected with the crossbar. Right. But I want us to tip my hat to Promise David. So again, I'm surprised that he comes in as late as he does, but he steps up and he's first. And I was like, oh shit, like, Promise is taking this first, and trust in him to do it. And I think he has the trust in himself and the belief in himself to do it. But like, that was a lot on him to convert and to put this team off on the right foot in the penalty shootout, and he delivered. And so, like, well done to him.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize the pressure as well in penalties. I could walk out into a stadium, 100,000 people play a game, not a problem. Wouldn't even think twice. But you make me take a penalty, an important one, I'm like, oh no, this is not the moment that I want. I missed a penalty in the Gold Cup in 2002. Missed one there.
We remember, Jimmy.
Yeah, I just hated those moments. So, but maybe that's why I worked my ass off to try to help win a game in 90 minutes. So
So in 2002, what number were you taking? I forget.
I think I was third.
Oh, you were third.
Jimmy says you think he was third. He knows he was third.
Yeah.
You didn't put your hand up though. You were told
third. And luckily we went through.
And then we ended up going into penalties against the States, and we lost that one in the semis. I didn't take one.
Okay.
Were you off the pitch? Was that why you were off the pitch?
No, I was on the pitch, but I was just off penalties.
Why are you taking third? And but you missed. That's why. Okay, fair enough. Now I remember. That's tough. It's not a miss though if it's saved. It's not. Let's get that.
It was missed.
But you're in there, Jimmy. I just want to go back to this for a second, like to get inside Jimmy Brennan's head at this point. So are you doing that? Like you're reluctantly in there because the coach is like, Jimmy, we need you to take this penalty. Have you expressed that you're uneasy with it?
No. You know, I think at that moment I was thinking, okay, I've got this.
Okay.
And then I put the ball down, I stepped back, and the goal just looked so small. And then I thought, I shouldn't be doing this.
Was that against Martinique, Jimmy? Was that Martinique?
Yeah, Martinique.
Oh.
Keeper made a world-class save.
Everyone keeps up talking.
Superhuman save.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Wonga, fill for me. I'm just trying to find something here.
Phil, for me, hey, if you're, we're going to be doing our mini pod right after this, and so please download or go to DAZN.com to stream free the Club World Cup. Great matches yesterday. Harry Kane played well, and actually, I saw him for the first time as a superstar yesterday. The way he played, and that was the first time because Sharms has been going on and on about Harry Kane as he is, and then Kerry Ryan and Asa. Shout out. I know that just because Chelsea wins, you get mentioned. So I want to make sure that we mention you again. So Gold Cup is now over. Everyone lean in to Club World Cup.
It's still going on. Canada's just not involved.
No. Well, for Canada. Yeah. Sorry. I'm just thinking of our demo right now. Our 3% of Americans. Congratulations. Oh, look at that. We've got a commercial from Canadian Tire.
I should have just shut up, you know.
You should have.
Made a good point. I should have just left it.
Right.
I just want to see it. This is from 2002 Gold Cup quarterfinal Canada against Martinique.
All right.
Damn it.
So this is a commercial.
All the
commercial. Yeah.
Jimmy, where did you put it?
All right. So hey, is that Lars Hirschfeld, right?
Yep.
Yeah, you don't know that, Jimmy. You don't know that, Wonga.
Yeah, I know Lars Hirschfeld. I remember who came after Craig.
Okay.
That's why.
All right. Who's this here? Okay.
Jeez. So can you explain what we're watching, Sharms, just so for the people on the podcast?
Yeah, so it's a penalty shootout, quarterfinals, Martinique, Canada. It's I think it's 1-1 at this point. Let's just skip ahead, shall we? Here's the third take. This is young Jimmy Brennan.
Yeah,
number 11, stepping up to the pitch here. Jimmy, talk us through it.
Nervous. Referee told me to fix the ball. I had a little argument with him. I was like, "Look, it's on the dot." He goes, "No, you fix it." I was like, "No, it's on the dot." And he's like,
"That's a long run up, Jimmy Brennan."
Yeah, I was trying to get back to the dressing room.
Oh no, you missed the net.
So when he said the keeper made an amazing save, it was a lie.
He said missed the AdWords, Jimmy.
So yeah. Oh, it just
missed that corner.
Little Jimmy Brennan.
It was almost a great penalty. Almost. Oh, that's a long walk back, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's a long walk back too. Oh. Sorry.
I also want to a shout out to our friends on Blue Sky. Spirit of the North had some things, and they were going through a bit of therapy on Blue Sky, just saying that they, after much reflection, they think that we're lacking maturity on the Canada's men's national team, and I would probably agree.
Leadership, is that? I mean, listen, no Fonzie, we know that. No Stacchio.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Right? Well, no Stacchio, that was a big one for sure.
Yeah.
Well, John David was captain for this one. I think as I read somewhere, the plan was for if Stacchio was to return, he would take the armband.
Yes, I saw that too.
I mean, it's an armband, right? I mean, it's not that big a deal. But do you think, Dubs, is leadership an issue when the squad isn't at its full strength? Ozo, as you mentioned before as well, not even available.
Is it an issue? No, I think that they still have younger players, and they have players like John David, like Kyle Aaron, like Alistair Johnston, like Max Crepeau, who can step in there and not even fill the void. But those are guys that are shouldering a little bit more in the absence of the players that we just mentioned. But on the pitch, managing that game yesterday was a guy like Eustachio, and also Oso to close out that match missed 100%.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can I make one more comment? Well, I'm going to make one more comment. Not can I?
No, you can't.
Not everyone can be shithousery like Richie Larea. He's earned it. He's played in enough CONCACAF matches, enough Gold Cup matches, enough qualification. So whenever these other players see Richie being Richie, not everyone can do that. Not everyone's earned it. And that's what the lack of discipline for me is. It's recognizing what your strengths are and not having to, like, yes, you're all brothers and you all have each other's back, but you don't have to react like it's, you don't have to always just do what you see other people do. Part of it is knowing who you are. And I think that's the lack of maturity sometimes.
Yeah, Richie knows just how far to cross the line.
Yes.
He does cross a line, but
because even seeing Dane St. Clair when he got that ball kicked at him, it was kind of, it could have been like a warning, could even have been a yellow. Like it was a pretty cheap little ball getting kicked at the keeper, and it went really hard at him. But it took him out of his game, right? He went reaching over, grabbed the guy's jersey, stay in the moment, let the ball fly out. And these are little things that I think maturity has, like thinking bigger, right? Think about the end goal, which is to win the game. And I don't know if that changes everything, but for me, that's those little disciplinary moments where you like, hey, can you calm down everybody a little bit?
I think we've seen that from Tejon this tournament. This year, he's matured a lot in that regard, because he's still prickly. You see, he won't back down. But there was a time there a couple of years ago where every match I was thinking it's either Tejon or it's Mark Anthony Kaye getting sent off, because they seem to be always just in the middle of something. And he's clearly matured. And we think we talked about that last show or a couple of weeks ago maybe. But anyway, listen, that they're out. It's really annoying, frustrating. From our purposes, for our numbers, it's not great. This will do really well, this one. But there won't be a semi-final to jump aboard, or a final, unfortunately. So for us, the Gold Cup is now dead, and we should never mention it again.
You're dead to us, Concacaf Gold Cup. You're dead to us.
We're focusing purely now on the Club World Cup, and Canada's women's are in action. Thank God, women, the women's are in action.
Women's.
But yeah, all that in due course. For the time being, we'll mourn this loss. It was a tough one, a painful one. But let's try and be positive. There's some big games coming up, albeit friendlies, against some European and South American teams in very short order. Starting in September, we've got a double header, haven't we? Against Wales, of course, and Romania, which I look forward to. That's in September. And then, as mentioned before, the Colombia match, October. There'll be more coming as well. A lot of games coming up for Canada before the World Cup. Not competitive. It's kind of a weird thing. They're all competitive, but you know what I'm saying. They don't mean that much. Anyway, everyone, thanks so much for this. I think it's been good for us to get therapy. Moving on now. Stick around, though, for our Club World Cup micropod coming up really soon. So until next time, cheers for listening and watching, everyone. Bye-bye.